Hi, everyone. Beginning of the week, I wanted to say hello, bring something to share. Got a bit of a head cold. Maybe you hear it in my voice, nose. All right. Anyway, beautiful day out. Head's a little foggy. But there's a beautiful section I wanted to share, continuing from Dewey for Artists. And it's about 5.5 pages, but I don't think I'm gonna cut it. I'll split it into 2 parts. So yeah, okay. Looking forward to this week. We're going to be having starting up classes. The abstraction as discovery, which will be a blast. So we're doing it online in the studio. We've got to stretch the canvas for that. Anyway, looking forward to it. Okay. Embodied making. For the maker, each work encompasses more than the thing itself. Working with wood to fashion furniture. One second. I'm gonna cut off I'm gonna pause this. Can I do that? How do I do this? Up here. I'm gonna turn off the air conditioning. I don't know if you can hear the noise of the air conditioner, but I can. And it's distracting. Anyway, it's warm in here, but I'll do it. Okay. Embodied making. For the maker, each work encompasses more than the thing itself. Working with wood to fashion furniture, maker-author Peter Korn writes, "The maker of craft, or any maker, is generally a lone individual asking, in part, how life may be lived with meaning and fulfillment. His work is a process of remapping social narratives central to human identity. So the things he makes speak to those issues." I'm going to read that again. It's dense, but it's good. The maker of craft, or any maker, is generally a lone individual asking, in part, how life may be lived with meaning and fulfillment. His work is a process of remapping social narratives central to human identity. So the things he makes speak to those issues. Katie Patterson is working with a whole forest of trees in Oslo to make Future Library. That's the name of the piece, Future Library. It will be pulped in 100 years from planting in order to print the manuscripts of authors commissioned once a year until then. Of making, she said, "I treat my work like it was alive, a living being, sentient in some regard. Therefore, if alive, I must treat it with respect, care, and compassion for it to live and grow. This requires cultivation. I feel like I'm deceiving my work if it's made carelessly, overlooked, rushed. With Future Library, it more literally does live and grow. It needs to be tended with compassion over the years to come. I need to sustain strong willpower to see many of my works through. I must not only have belief, but also compassion for the work. I must feel for it. I must always have a belief from the outset that the work deserves to be brought into being, and I distinguish this belief from a value judgment on the work." End quote. As a work is brought into being, it becomes alive, and it lives in the maker. That's Mary Jane Jacob writing that. As a work is brought into being, it becomes alive, and it lives in the maker. Pirsig, Robert Pirsig, right? Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, that she was quoting last time. Channeling Dewey spoke of the integration. I've said you can actually see this fusion in skilled mechanics and machinists of a certain sort, and you can see it in the work they do. To say that they are not artists is to misunderstand the nature of art. They have patience, care, and attentiveness to what they're doing. But more than this, there's a kind of inner peace of mind that isn't contrived, but results from a kind of harmony with the work in which there's no leader and no follower. The material and the craftsman's thoughts change together in a progression of smooth, even changes until his mind is at rest at the exact instant the material is right. Making is a conscious act. Making as a conscious act also develops the consciousness of the maker. Making as a conscious act also develops the consciousness of the maker. It is more than the workings of the brain or the muscle memory of the hand. It is an embodied process of inquiry. An embodied process of inquiry. Dewey believed that the self can neither be separated into parts nor from its surroundings. And with this, he urged an understanding of the totality and continuity of being. He called this concept mind-body. This feeling of unity within and beyond the self contributes to artful making. Quote, any practical activity will, provided that it is integrated and moves by its own urge to fulfillment, have aesthetic quality. End quote. Creating art or any invested making draws upon the whole and situated self, offering us an uncommon chance to feel a sense of wholeness within ourselves and connectedness to something beyond. We feel a sense of completeness, not just of having completed a task. Korn, the fellow we started with, writing about craft, Korn speaks from experience when he says, creative practice simply makes our lives richer in meaning and fulfillment than they might otherwise be. For some of us, creative practice may be among the few slender threads that bind our lives together at all. End quote. Furthermore, making as a manifestation of mind, body, is a process by which we can further develop our consciousness. What we make shapes the ethos of our life. Dewey surely had Aristotle's ethics in mind, seeking to bring into his own time the ancient wisdom that to live well is to practice the values at the essence of our being. What do we care about? What do we care about? Hence, having embodied these values, we act on them through what we make. If the workings of mind and body are unified, so too must be thinking and action, according to Dewey. But to suggest that all makers are agents who think as well as act was problematic in his time. Class distinctions remain defined according to labor, and the intellectual elite distinguished from the less esteemed hand worker, and the artist ambiguously positioned between the two. Even today, art schools endeavor to demonstrate that artists are researchers. This is consummated in artists' practice-based PhDs. But Dewey demanded no division between theory and practice. To him, the future depended on their union. So he wrote, the question of the integration of mind, body in action is the most practical of all questions we can ask of our civilization. It is not just a speculative question. It is a demand that the labor of multitudes, now too predominantly physical in character, be inspirited by purpose and emotion and informed by knowledge and understanding. It is a demand that what now pass for highly intellectual and spiritual functions shall be integrated with the ultimate conditions and means of all achievement, namely the physical, and thereby accomplish something beyond themselves. Until this integration is effected in the only place where it can be carried out in action itself, we shall continue to live in a society in which a soulless and heartless materialism is compensated for by soulful but futile and unnatural idealism and spiritualism. For materialism is not a theory, but a condition of action, that in which material and mechanical means are severed from the consequences which give them meaning and value. And spiritualistic idealism is not a theory, but a state of action, that in which ends are privately enjoyed in isolation from means of execution and consequent public betterment. End quote. Making as an embodied practice fulfills something basic to being human. Making as an embodied practice fulfills something basic to being human. And I'm breaking into it here. When Dewey says in the beginning of that quote I just read, the question of integration of mind, body, and action is the most practical of all questions we can ask of our civilization. There's something that we're doing, and it's important to get this because everything around us is telling us, no, that's not the case, but it is the case. What we are doing as painters has very practical implications for our civilization, truly, now. And it's really important what we're doing. And it's important that we share what we're doing and believe in what we're doing. It's not an extra thing. It is just not. And it's really hard to get that given the way everything's set up. Making as an embodied practice fulfills something basic to being human. I'll read a little bit more and then I'll break. As an evolutionary-minded philosopher informed by the rising field of anthropology, Dewey was led to conclude that humans make things purposefully in spite of variations across cultures. Thus, putting care into what we make, Dewey reasoned, must serve a purpose in living life. The answer he found lay in the satisfyingly invigorating moments in which meanings are made and which, in reaffirming our very aliveness, give us insight into how to operate in the world. Right? It's like, all right, how do I take this out of the studio? What does this mean about how do I live my life? Something else happens too. We grow. And growth signals a healthy organism. We are not just alive, but well. All right, I'm gonna pause there, and there's another 2.5 pages, but it'll get to that. So we'll continue that next week. I hope you're all well. Making stuff. Put it in the calendar. It's important. All right. Good to hear from you. Take care. Be well. Bye-bye.